Welcome to Meet Me at the Wall. A podcast exploring author Anne Goodwin's time-traveling journey after discovering hundreds of letters written to her grandmother over a century ago. We visit the space where fact meets fiction, truth fosters imagination, and delve into the past while keeping an eye on how lessons from history affect us today and even tomorrow.
I was wondering, Doug, if before we start this episode, if we could kind of review our operating rules or Robert rules of orders.
What's that?
Could we maybe next time start with the cookies?
That brings up a little confession I have to make.
What's that?
I didn't make cookies.
All right, that's it.
Now, I do have Girl Scout cookies. I've had several Girl Scout cookies if you'd like cookies. But the little twist to that is that every time Tracy and I finish fostering a group of kittens, we make a treat for the staff at the shelter because they're going to spay and neuter the kittens today. So today was that day, and our kittens were all named after Irish towns. So we had Tula and Shannon and Dublin and Cashel. So instead of making cookies, we made Bailey's Irish cream brownies. Do you think we could sub in those instead of cookies?
We're good with that.
Okay.
But can we have them now then?
Yes, here they are. You can hear the crinkle of the foil. Yes.
Thank you. These look lovely.
Here are your weekly treats.
Thank you. Thank you.
Today's episode is centered on one of Flo's best friends. And of course, that's Shiny. We're going to hear a couple of new sketches from Anne. These are set around 1934, 1935. And we also have the special treat of Betsy reading a selection of actual letters written by Shiny. And as if that's not enough, to top it off, we're going to start with a special guest. And this marks the second time we've had a conversation with Frank Mountcastle, Shiny's son. With that, Frank is expecting our call about now, so I'm going to dial him up.
Hi, this is Mountcastle. The king and queen are out releasing the falcons. If you care to leave a message, we'll call you right back. Cheerio.
Hey, Frank, it's Doug and Betsy and Anne. If you get this message, please call us right back at this number. We're all set to have our little chat. I do love this voicemail, though.
Yes. We'll remember this episode as the episode when we tried to reach Frankie, but instead enjoyed his voicemail again and again.
His voicemail. It's going in the episode, I'm telling you.
Yes, it's too good.
It's too good. Yeah. Well, hopefully Frank will call us back. And in the meantime, let's pivot to Anne's new sketches.
Poor Form, University of Virginia, Charlottesville, Virginia, fall 1934. Florence sits down at her makeshift desk in the corner of her spare bedroom where the Virginia sun is dappled by the trees from the backyard. She picks up her pen. Oh my, Shiny, I am pinching myself these days. Benj and I find ourselves firmly transplanted in Charlottesville. His desire to further his education in these uncertain times has landed him in law school at UVA. I've kept mum about all this until our plans became solid. Hard to believe we've been here for almost a month. I'm sorry to be so out of touch. Today, he's off to his first class, and I finally have a moment to think. I've been wandering aimlessly in this darling house situated beautifully near campus with lots of lovely shops, etc. to explore. As if anyone shops these days. It doesn't seem like the news can get much worse. But on to cheerier subjects. It's amazing how many of our friends know people in Charlottesville. I know this sounds crazy, but we just hosted a preterm cocktail party and had over 50 guests. Fortunately, we have a lovely patio and sizable backyard. People were able to amble in and out of our tiny house and gather comfortably. I found a wonderful person to manage the food bites and provide a bartender. Our menu is simple. Southerners sure know how to make a mean biscuit, just like at Sweetbriar. Of course, we served Virginia ham, and I provided Anna's pimento cheese recipe, but I think they used their own. It was quite tasty. Nancy and Dick have just returned from the outing, so I'll continue later. Oh, dear Shiny, I can't believe how long I've let this letter sit. At least I have more to share than cocktail sausage news. Benj won the Farmington Club Championship last week. I'm not sure if this is going to work for us or against us in various social circles. Is it considered poor form to beat the field on their home course when the ink on your membership card is barely dry? We might have seen our last canapé. I will deem this our family bonding period, if so. In the meantime, my pet, please write and share all your news. Waiting anxiously, devotedly, Fleur. P.S. I'm seriously considering piling Dickie and Nancy in the car and driving to visit you. Your thoughts as to when? No Worries, Mountain Trek, Virginia to New Jersey, January 1935. Benj, I'm worried about Shiny. She just doesn't seem right, and although she has tried cures from all sorts of different sources, nothing seems to help. Listen to what she just wrote. When I'm with people, I'm wound up like a top and go to 1,000 pieces when I'm alone. She said something like that when I visited Sweetbriar before graduation. I feel I must go and see her and do it soon. Ben raised his head from his law school textbook and asked, "How do you propose to get there, and what about the children?" "Well, I've been thinking about driving there, and we'll take Nancy and Dickie with me. I'll pack plenty of food and toys for the trip and wonder what could go wrong." Ben marked his page and closed the heavy tome. What could possibly go wrong between Virginia and New Jersey and the mountain range in between them in January of all times? Fleur turned her head and gazed out the kitchen window at the Virginia boxwood, spotting a crimson cardinal hopping on top of its dark leaves. "I have another reason to go now. Shiny mentioned setting up a hot dog stand at the Lindbergh kidnapping trial in Flemington to endow Sweetbriar. I thought I'd contact Kay and Bird and see if they'll join me visiting Shiny. We could have a fun project together and brighten Shiny's spirits." "I don't want to rain on your parade here, but what do you know about selling hot dogs? I don't need to remind you the last benefit you were involved in cost us quite a bit of money. We might as well just write Sweetbriar a check directly. And if you plan to drive, I'm going to have to teach you some basic car maintenance, like checking your fuel and oil and how to manage a flat tire." 2 days later, Florence lined up Nance and Dick and presented them each a wicker basket containing wax-papered sandwiches, assorted fruits, and their preferred pastime objects. Dick's basket was brimful with die-cast toy airplanes, and Nancy had her books to keep her company, plus her favorite board game, Sorry. Florence opened the back door of the Admiral Blue deluxe Chevy sedan and started ushering Dickie in. "You can set up an entire airfield back here and play with your planes. Scoot on in." She helped him with his basket and secured the door. She beckoned Nancy around to the passenger front door and said, "You'll sit up here and be my co-pilot, sweetie, okay? Keep an eye out for manure piles, as Uncle Ted always warned me." Nancy arranged herself with 2 books in hand and questioned, "Should I start Dana Girls, Secret at Lone Cottage, or Kay's story, Secret of the Manor, I wonder?" Before Fleur could respond to Nancy's musing, Ben approached from behind. "I have one more thing to show you about the tire." He pulled Florence to the back of the sedan and opened the boot, where the spare tire laid on its side under the thin wooden shelf. Hours later, Florence found herself on top of a mountain pass, gripping the steering wheel tightly. Rolling dense fog had happened out of seemingly nowhere, and visibility was bleak. Florence took a deep breath. "Nancy, dear, are you ready to be my co-pilot?" Nancy closed her book, looked wide-eyed at her mother, and nodded yes. "Wonderful, dear. I have a new game for us to play. It's called Follow the Co-Pilot. I need you to step outside and lead me down the road. I can't see the edge, but you will be able to, and I'll be able to see you, so we won't drive off the cliff. Doesn't that sound like fun?" What could possibly go wrong?
That is incredible, just to think of a mountain trek like that going on her own, right? It's not something she probably typically did.
Not at all.
No. Well, I have to ask, fact or historical fiction on this one? It's time for fact or historical fiction. Or historical fiction. Or historical fiction. Did you come up with this somehow as a musing, as you're out swimming or whatever? Or was this something that was inspired? How much of this is fact?
Well, it is a fact that my grandmother drove over the mountains with the children in 1934, 35.
Okay. Yeah.
And then there's also another fact embedded in there, but it really had nothing to do with my grandmother. So when we write, sometimes we take material from other sources in life. Mm-hmm. So my father was driving over a Colorado mountain pass with my sister in the car, and he couldn't see the edge, so he made her get out of the car.
Oh, he did? For real? So that Flo didn't do that, but hey, the apple doesn't fall far from it.
Well, he's not really blood related.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
But
my goodness.
That's where I borrowed that scene from real life as a fact, but just put it in a different car.
Oh, it would be bad for the whole car to fall off, but to have your kid out there following a road with other cars on the road.
My sister wasn't a big fan of mountain passes after that. But then she did end up ultimately living in Colorado, so.
No wonder. You mentioned there was a letter that you got this trip idea from. Is that something maybe we could have Betsy read for us?
Yeah, there is a source letter for this. It's just one little sentence that got all this stirred up.
Well, let's hear the context to that. Let's dip into the from the source readings now. And we're going to have Betsy in her debut as Shiny.
I wanted to be known that transcribing Shiny's letters can be a bit of an experience of code breaking. Her handwriting would travel off the page sometimes, but it was fun. It was like solving a mystery.
It was a big thankful when she started typing.
Exactly. And this letter
she typed too.
Yes, yeah. This letter that I'm about to read is her first typewritten letter, which she did on a borrowed typewriter.
Oh, fun. Okay.
It's postmarked October 13th, 1934, Elizabeth, New Jersey, 11:30 a.m. It's from Mrs. Frank F. Mountcastle, 551 Cherry Street, Elizabeth, New Jersey, and it's addressed to Mrs. B.F. Crawford, Edgewood Lane University, Virginia. Thursday. Dearest Flo, don't judge Pratt's secretarial school by the quality of the typing in this billet, for, though of course I used to be most excellent, I have grown a trifle rusty in many respects. I wish this had an exclamation point and a good dasher, for my letters seem to need strong punctuation. This is a borrowed machine, but I would love to own one, and it just occurred to me that you would like to know that it is on my Christmas list. Of course, that is quite a modest request after the silver nut dishes of last year, but never fear about my retaliation. Is that the word for it? I've been looking over the vest stock, and I think I can find a nice roomy model that will suit the southern climes. I haven't had much time for reflection lately, but in the midst of packing and unpacking and whatnot, I pause often to wonder how you are, and try to picture you in the house, which sounds darling and everything, but my usually keen mind fails, and I think I'll have to visit you. Probably Benj will be a gray-haired veteran of the bar before I see you again, but it's nice to plan, and I'm working on Frank as to the idea of a Thanksgiving dash to Charlottesville. Frank has been anxious to go to Woodbury Forest for a certain reunion game that comes around Thanksgiving. I'm not sure just when, and though I haven't met with exactly overwhelming assurance of such a trip, I'm hastening to write a reservation. A portion of the daybed, or the dog's basket, or a nest in the wood box in case we should or could arrive. Excursions are probably being planned constantly by your Titusville friends, so to avoid congestion, I'm mentioning such a bare possibility. I adored your letter and laughed many times. You're becoming a new woman indeed. I can't believe you drove over the mountain alone with the children. With such a definite wife, there's no telling where Benj will land, as we say in phlegm. And speaking of phlegm, don't say it isn't rivaling the oil jubilees with such a murder trial. I think I'll have to get in touch with Muffy and have a hot dog stand for Sweetbriar's endowment fund. At least I do think I should have the stand, because I fear the old town will be quite overrun with the curious and bloodthirsty. It is a weird case altogether, but it does seem that Hauptmann is very near the center of the solution. Only wish there were something to fasten the crime for a certainty. So much circumstantial evidence, but the odds are certainly against him at any rate, because no jury in the world could honestly swear themselves unprejudiced. We came home from the shore Monday night. Mother and Father were there the last 2 weeks after Frank's vacation, and they seemed to enjoy it. We lead such a perfectly relaxed life there. No engagements, no telephone or bells, no anything but to sun, eat, and sleep. I adore it and simply hated to come back to responsibilities. This week has been hectic, and I feel as though we had been back for months. The children are upset by the change, I think, and so much begins in October. League work, church meetings, bridge and all that. Next week, I'm having the DAR from Flemington here for meeting and tea, and it looks like an awful job right this minute. Have to do some house cleaning, but I think it will be light. That's one thing about moving. You don't have to clean in a big way, but at best, it is a choice of evils. Had lunch with Mary B. on Tuesday. I guess I told you she had moved to Plainfield. Never did see her at all in town. Now she seems much nearer. Really had a very nice time. Her mother, who is so attractive, is visiting her, and we had quite a talk out, though I think I did all the talking as usual. I think I shall have to acquire more of that calm dignity that the delightful ladies in novels seem to have. Had a letter from Annie while at Normandy, asking me to buy her a leopard coat, around $100. Wrote a discouraging letter as to the probability of such a feat, and she has decided against it. She would look nice in leopard, I think, but I shouldn't think they would have enough cold weather to need a heavy fur coat. In fact, you are probably contemplating sending me yours by next mail. What did you purchase in the way of clothes for the winter season? I have 2 wool everyday sports dresses and a silk model that I bought at Bayhead, and need a new cloth coat, good silk dress, hats, shoes, bags, stockings, and underwear, and so I guess I'll mosey along with my needs. I'm having curtains made for my living room, and we'll probably wrap ourselves up in those when there's an extra occasion. Many things have happened in the course of this letter, most pleasant of which is the appearance now of a girl to wheel the children, so I'll pile them off and take a snooze. I'm exhausted. Think I'll never wake up if I go to sleep. And that would be bad, this being Thursday, and I must scramble the eggs. Sit down soon and tell me more. I certainly would like to see you, and I really do have a Thanksgiving visit in mind if you will be there and have room for us and everything. Do you have to come up to the doctor anymore? If you do, you could come up and drive down with us or something like that. With 1,000 ifs. Dearest love to you all devotedly, Flo. P.S. Do you think the typewriter is an improvement over my script, or do you like the personal touch? Frank started to write to the DKE house to look up Benj, then thought maybe he would be bored to death with all that collegiate business. Would he mind? F.
It was beautiful to listen to that. And wow, the way the writing is and the things that are shared in unique, special ways, just very special.
Yeah, we learn a lot about Shiny from these letters. And
you really do.
Trials and tribulations and the things that she loved, especially those trips to the shore.
Just such a great sense of humor, where she just puts these little zingers in. A lot of times self-deprecating, but
sleeping in the wood box, all these little things. Yes. And then this harkened back to season 1 when we talked about the Lindbergh trial. And in one of your sketches, you talked about a lemonade stand. This was the source for that, too.
Obviously, that's the source for that as well.
We actually have a neighbor whose son wrote a book about the Lindbergh trial that I want to put a little plug in for because it's an excellent book. It's called The 16th Rail, The Evidence, The Scientist, and the Lindbergh Kidnapping. And it is by Adam Schrager. So look that up. It's a really good read and digs deep into the whole trial. And she talked about the circumstantial evidence and things like that. So it actually goes into this wood scientist and how they helped with that trial.
I thought that paragraph was a great example of how bright Shiny is and she's a thinker. And so she's looking for evidence that's more concrete because, she's involved in that thought process of, there's a fine gray line here. And plus, hot dog stand. Because why not?
So, I think Shiny was really lonely for someone funny to be with.
Yeah.
And that was Flo. Flo was her funny friend.
Do you have a favorite letter from all these? Or is that hard to... terrible question to ask, maybe?
That's a good question. I think that there might be several favorites of Shiny's because she is such a plethora of information. I love the comment that she makes regarding the typewriter, that it's lacking exclamation points and dashes. Because, as we've said, like Shiny just writes in one long dash. It's a train of thought that we receive from her, and her typewriter isn't the vehicle that is conveying the emotion that she puts behind her written words. So I think it's pretty funny between the handwritten and the typewriter to see the differences.
She works those dashes in at every single opportunity.
Yes.
At the end of sentences, before a question mark, between words.
Maybe we could get a little photo of that to show in this episode. I would love to show a photo of some of this because you kind of have to see it.
It'll be in our notes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Excellent. I mean, this episode is all about Shiny, right? I mean, that's kind of our theme today. It's in the 30s and 40s.
Well, yes, it's all about Shiny, but again, it's about Shiny and Fleur. And this friendship that they grow and mature together as life is happening. And they do count on each other. We're now in the 30s and 40s, and we spent so much time in the 20s that we're roaring, and these young girls and their spirits and what they're thinking about and talking about. I think this next letters, they count on each other for their sense of humors.
Sure.
Like that is their lifeline. And I think that's mentioned as a source sort of material in a letter that we'll hear next.
Postmark August 3rd, 1933, Varick Street Annex, New York. It's addressed to Mrs. B.F. Crawford, Jr., 214 West Spruce Street, Titusville, Pennsylvania. Wednesday. Dear Flo's, your letter was such a nice surprise this morning, and the long epistle in Darien was a high spot. I should have put on my water wings before starting this because at the rate the water is pouring off and out of me, I'll soon be drowned. Never have I felt such heat, unless it was the day you and Benj stopped in Phlegm en route from West Point to Titusville. But that day was only one day, and this seems to be endless. I laughed as I read your letters and decided that you would have to entertain me and Otto together from now on and give the week over to Tiddlywinks and Pussy Wants a Corner and Squat Tag and a few simple sports. You will soon begin to wonder how to entertain me when I visit you. Millie and Steph were both grand to me. Really don't know what I would have done if I couldn't have gotten away. I rested, had massages, and parties in between. But my trouble is that I simply can't relax, so it's hard to get back. I'm terribly discouraged because I have a hopeless feeling that I never will be well. If I would just start to improve a bit, I'd be encouraged. But I really don't seem to notice much. It's so hard on Frank, and the whole thing upsets me in that I don't know what to do. But I'm trying to keep going, for there's nothing else to do. Haven't said anything to anybody here, but have started to go to a neurologist because I've been trying for a long time to help myself and to get out of it, and I'm no good. How I ever got with such a state is beyond me, but it's hell. And that's that, and here's hoping. The children are fine. Hanky is the best baby I've ever seen, and Anna's darling. Covered with mosquito bites at present, which isn't so good. What with waking up 4 or 5 times a night, oh me. Is Marion McGintis still sick? And how are Marion and Joe? Is Marion able to do her work? And does Joe have a job? Give them my love. Frank is now on a 5-day week, which is nice. He's so wonderful and so patient with me. I never saw such a disposition. Hope the children inherit it. Have you seen When Ladies Meet and Autumn in Vienna? Very good movies, don't you think? I laughed heartily at both. Must stop and dry off. I'm certainly hoping you will be down in the fall. Can't think of anything that would be more good than to see you. And I certainly hope by that time to be much, much better. Congratulations on the golf. You'll soon have to build a trophy room. My love to Benj. I still think his sending me the flowers was the sweetest thing I've ever heard. X's and O's for the children, and as always, my best love for you, devotedly, Shiny. Write often, please.
So she mentioned Hanky?
That's her nickname for Frank. I think this letter is just a shining example of Shiny's determination to overcome whatever health, mental, physical challenges that she's having that are, I think, presenting as anxiety. And she's doggedly trying to help herself. And I think that's the call to Florence driving over the mountain, is that she knows her friend is in need of some cheer, and that's why she went.
And she's clearly aware of this. She's self-aware of it. She's
Isn't
not
that
lost in
the
it.
first step?
I would think so, because if you're oblivious to something like this, it would be a whole different scenario.
And so brave. So brave to talk about it, to share her despair in her trying, and how much they didn't know then about mental health issues and where to find the support she needs. So it's very touching.
Well, and the social changes and what's going on with her family. I probably should have read this letter from 1932 first, because it kind of sets the stage for that letter that I just read.
You can go ahead and read it.
I'm going to read a letter that is postmarked June 7th, 1932, Elizabeth, New Jersey, from Mrs. Frank F. Mountcastle, 26 Stiles Street, Elizabeth, New Jersey, to Mrs. B.F. Crawford, 214 West Spruce Street, Titusville, Pennsylvania. Tuesday. Flozo, my darling, I've just been in a whirl. Never have we had such gay time chasing Anne, washing the car, dusting and sweeping, and doing our own dinner dishes at least 4 times a week. Just as I think I'm caught up with all the dirty pans, there's another one, and so goes the hectic social circle. May certainly was 1 month I shan't forget in a hurry. Mr. Walcott's death was such a shock to us all, and particularly for poor Frank. Of course, it will be a long time before he really recovers. He was so terribly fond of the governor, as he called Mr. W. And then, when they made the readjustments in business, Frank got a very, very bad break. So altogether, we've been pretty much upset. I've started to write you any number of times, but something would happen. I had this German girl for about 10 days, and she was the limit. Stanley was here visiting. We had a large scene one evening, and she left, forgetting to take a few bed bugs, don't tell Zill, which she had deposited on the box couch in Anne's room. And before going, got confidential with our dear Stan, who didn't know what it was all about, telling him women never understood her like men, etc. Good thing the brother was broke. I guess she wanted some money, for she went to New York, and her family haven't heard from her since. Meanwhile, we've rented an apartment furnished for July and August for the puny sum of $50 a month, and we'll go to Flem with the family for those 2 months. I have a swell girl for these last 3 weeks. I hope I can get her back in the fall, but by that time I'll probably be doing somebody else's housework or joining your South Seas cult. But enough of me and mine. How are you all by now? Such a time as you must have had. I thought of you so much. Poor little Nancy must have been awfully sick, and too bad Dickie didn't escape the pox. Hope they're fine by now and that you and Benj haven't turned blotchy. How did you get along driving the car home? I laugh every time I think of Columbia. Anne wrote that Calder Siebel had been married, and they were having parties, etc. Now, if we could only dispose of the Heffelfingers, life would be so simple. I laughed over your last letter. You are such a pill. Too bad I can't find a laughing partner in Elizabeth. My only consolation is that you and Flo Grandin are making lines in your faces every time you have a good giggle. But mine is probably drooping, so that's not so much consolation either. Your wardrobe sounds delightful. How did you have your piqué made? I now have on my tan, which is all right, but not startling. Haven't had the red made up yet. Have you had your lace dyed? I have quite a pretty little blue and dark blue flowers silk print evening dress. Simply had to have something to save the tan lace. I've had the pineapple rolling around in a large green glass plate several times for an impressive fini of a meal, and it was quite a success, although our friend Julie Hewitt started to take the whole half of pineapple, narcissus, lilies of the valley, and all, until I restrained her. Don't forget the chocolate icebox recipe, if you've ever gotten it. And the films. You see, John was saving the enlargements for you, you hussy. I laughed for half an hour over the scratching scene in your double exposure. Started to call him the other day in New York and ask him if he were pregnant, but didn't have time. We'll wait till the big blonde puts in her appearance. Poor Steph. Suppose she's written you of her miscarriage. Now little Steph will be the Hafner heir. I was awfully upset. Didn't see her in the hospital and haven't seen her yet. Don't know their plans for the summer. If I phoned them, it would be a dinner-out night, I'm sure. I can't waste the quarter. We had a swell week at Bay Head over Decoration Day. What did you do? My bandana played me false and displayed a big brown eye at a crucial moment. Too bad the right people will never accept me at such a rate, to say nothing of Mrs. S. in Southern Pines. How's the matrimonial situation? Write me. Is Benj feeling better? Tell him I haven't tightened up on my talk. How's Marty? How's golf? How's tricks? I feel a silly streak approaching, so I'd better take some exercise, like a good stretch, and work it off. Bye, pal, old pal. Write immediately, please, and I'll continue this installment. Loads of love. I read that, and Summer's Night. Haven't reached All Passion Spent or The Galaxy yet. XXX. Flo. Best to Benj, dash, children, dash, Grandins, etc., etc. Tell me about everything, FB.
Wow. So 2 really quick questions.
Yeah.
I love the wardrobe malfunction.
It took us a while to realize.
If everyone caught that one, and Anne mimicked something to me here so that I knew what that was because I looked at her.
Fortunately, I didn't mimic it all the way.
No. She was fully clothed, but she mimicked what that was talking about.
It took us a while to unscramble what that was about. And again, in this letter, I think there's a lot of subtext of things that we don't know anything about.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. Very fun letter. And
I can imagine why the tan lace wasn't startling.
Yeah. And PK, what's PK?
It's a fabric.
It is, okay. And I looked it up.
PK, P-I-Q-U-E. Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's a cotton fabric that has this really nice texture to it. It makes a really nice summer garment.
Nice. Hold on a second. This is Mountcastle calling. Okay. We have an incoming call. Yay!
Frankie.
Hello, Frank.
Yes, is this Doug?
It is Doug. We can hear you loud and clear. I'm here with Anne and Betsy.
Hey, Frank.
Very good.
Hello.
That's good.
Yeah, we had a little technical difficulties, but I'm glad that you called back. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. I don't know, maybe my cell phone wasn't working, or I'm a low-tech guy, so I apologize.
That is okay.
No apologies needed. We're just so happy to hear your voice.
We are. Frank, thank you for being our guest again. This is an episode here in season 2 that is really focused on Shiny Mountcastle. And we just love you being open to talking to us again and sharing maybe some more thoughts and stories.
I've been sort of digging into it a little bit, and I really didn't know. I guess Florence Westgate, was she raised in Titusville?
She was.
Both Fleur and Shiny came from small towns, really. Flemington has grown some in New Jersey. As I mentioned, her dad owned a hardware store downtown, which I was able to visit from time to time when we were living in Elizabeth at the time. And it was fun to sort of go out in the country. I always liked the rural areas of places I visited. So here, Fleur was sort of in that same type of community.
So it must be interesting, Frank. I was wondering how you feel about seeing your mother's life fictionalized in some ways and what that is like.
I figure when she and Shiny first met on the railroad station, I think your scenes in connection with the train station is good, because back in those days, I guess trains were how you got around. And I think my mother had a knack for having deep conversations with people. She was very outgoing and good personality and met a lot of people, but she was very observant, could size up situations in a certain way that she felt was the right way, and she gave good advice to young people, especially, certainly to Anne and me. But also, when we lived in Elizabeth, we lived right across from a family that had 4 boys, and they were all younger than Anne and me, but they were a nice family. Their father was on the board of the New York Stock Exchange, so he was right with it as far as the financial world was concerned. And these boys, a lot of pep. They liked to sail. They spent a lot of time in Bay Head, New Jersey, which is right down the way in Barnegat Bay. One of those boys would sort of knock on the door and not looking for me to play with. He sort of wanted to bounce something off Shiny, and they would sit and chat, and give advice. Not many young boys will do that, but
no, I love that.
They knew that if there was a problem, here was another mother right across the street that he could bounce things off of.
Shiny was the original Lucy Charlie Brown with her nickel psychiatric practice. Frank, you sent us the most lovely descriptive email of your summers in Bay Head. And we liked it so much, we thought it would be a great idea to share it with our audience. And we couldn't think of a better way than to have you read it, if that suits you.
Oh, sure. I'd be glad to do that. Well, in previous conversations, you know a little about summers in Bay Head from my conversations. Back then, for June, July, and August, my dad commuted each morning, Monday through Friday, to New York City to work with Southeastern Cottons, a selling agency for textile mills in the South. I remember so well his walk from the train station in Bay Head to our rented house on Cartier Street. I would see him walking and run up and give him a hug. When he got home, he would change into his suit, and the two of us would walk down to the ocean for a dip. Frank and Shiny had a large group of friends who had also summered there, and the cocktail circuit was in full bloom, especially Friday and Saturday nights. Annie and I would often eat in the kitchen with Mary, our beloved cook and housekeeper from Roselle, New Jersey. Folks loved Dad's Southern drawl and the many South expressions, one of which was, "Frankie, I'm so confused. I don't know if I'm on foot or horseback." And, "Frankie, if I had known how great retirement was, I never would have gone to work in the first place." At Bay Head, we were beach people, and that's where we were most of the time. My pal, Tommy Thomas, and I had boogie boards made from the wood in old ironing boards, and we would ride the waves from dawn to dusk. We were marginal swimmers, so not going over a head in the ocean. Always make sure you could touch the bottom. Frank and Shiny had complete trust in us, and we swam alone and not watched.
That's great. Oh, I love all of that. I love the saying, "If I'd known how great retirement was, I would have never gone to work in the first place." That's a great one.
Yeah, he had a lot of expressions like that.
Yes. Yeah. My grandmother's was, "I'm as mixed up as a milkshake."
Yeah, we've heard that one too. Yeah, I love it.
You can hear in Shiny's letters to Fleur how she treasured those summers at the beach and the time spent with you and the lack of demands and distractions and how she loved that. And also, as you're saying, Frank, in the letters from Shiny, it's obvious she's a thinker. You know, she is aware of world events and situations, and it's a very bright woman with a sense of humor that is just razor sharp. You know, a lot of self-deprecating sense of humor, but I imagine she was quite a character to have lead your way.
Oh, yeah, very much so. And, she wasn't a shrinking violet by any chance. She sometimes got under the skin of people. She, I think, had a feeling for the less fortunate. And so she would hear, these business executives talking about the worthless people on welfare, and, they don't want to work and they don't want a job and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And she would stand right up and say, listen, that's not right. Everybody wants a job. You feel better if you have a job. And what about health care? She was right on to that particular situation, which was good for us to listen to and to realize.
And Frank, Betsy's been kind enough to be reading the letters from Shiny in a beautiful voice. And one of the things that we were just talking about before you called was how introspective and self-aware she seemed as well. She was very tuned in, not just to others, but also to her own being.
Yes, very, very, very true. Mm-hmm. And as far as Sweetbriar is concerned, the one thing I did glean from that, and this sort of dovetails with your stories, is that she had a couple of beaus on the line too. And, but maybe that was the way it was back in those days.
It was obvious to all that Frank was the one. Your father, the letters that are written to my grandmother regarding, because she had left college when your mother and your father got together, and everybody was seeing them as the perfect match.
The perfect match. Well, I think they were seeing each other. She went to work in New York City, secretary of some type. And she found wind that he was dating a certain girl that she knew was a pretty fast number. And that seemed to speed things up a little bit on the proposal. So they, what I gather, that
a little preemptive strike.
Do we know her name?
That's right. Yeah. That got Johnny's attention, and they were married in 26. But those were interesting times and tragic and some helpful too.
In reading your mother's letters, which I spent some time transcribing this weekend, I feel like I'm getting to know her pretty well. And like Anne said, she was very thoughtful. And she also read quite a bit and enjoyed movies. Mm-hmm. But she was also, in her letters, Fleur was a good friend, and she would be quite honest about her ups and her downs. And in a very, I don't know what the right word is, heartrending way. What I wanted to ask is, she mentions your dad and what a great support he was to her. And so I've been curious about your father and what he was like.
Well, his personality was one of social ability. He loved people. He got along well with people. He was very successful as a salesperson. What he did is he represented mills in the South who made unfinished cotton goods. They call them gray goods. And people would use them for little bags, go to an old-time hardware store, and all the screws and bolts sometimes would be in cloth bags. That was one of his customers. And somebody who made awnings, that kind of strong fabric that could be used for awnings and work clothes.
Frank, did his business serve as a defense contractor? Then during World War II, did manufacturers shift to war goods?
Mm-hmm. They had, my dad was a member of the War Production Board down in Washington. They wanted to make sure that they had enough fabric to make uniforms for the soldiers, so that was very important. And a lot of the production in the South was turned toward the war effort, right? And so a lot of that was done. And he was a great athlete. He became a pretty good golfer, too. He was raised in Knoxville, Tennessee. He was a member of the Cherokee Country Club there in Knoxville, and he would go and play, and on the field of race relations, he would like to play with the caddies, and that was sort of frowned on. So he would say, "Well, I'll just tee off, and I'll meet you on the second hole." And caddy would, come on down, and he'd play a few holes with my dad, and so they would play together, and then go their separate ways when it's time to go back up to the club. So, he was a creature of his time, of course. He did have a little yearning for alcohol, so he was the kind of guy that could actually go out for lunch, have 2 martinis, and go back and actually work for the rest of the day until 5 o'clock.
Again, that was of the time.
Oh, yeah, I've
lunch.
heard of those kind of business lunches. I've never had one, but...
With my first corporate job, I thought that was what you're supposed to do. It's like, okay, now I have a vendor, and we're supposed to have some cocktails.
Yeah.
I was like, this isn't working for me.
I didn't do too well on that either. That's good.
Well, obviously, Frank and Shiny Mountcastle were very special people because you are our shining example of that. They raised a fine person in you. I'm sorry we missed your sister just by a short amount of time. But it's kind of weird to know so much about your family and your life by having these letters. And I just kind of wish I could have been a friend of Shiny's.
I think you would enjoy her.
I think so,
There's
too.
No doubt about it.
Thanks so much, Frank. We've really enjoyed having this chat. And it brings ancestry to life, which is what this whole
It really does.
is.
The whole podcast is named after that thought of meeting in real life with the descendants of the girls that were pictured on the wall. If you remember, Meet Me at the Wall was as much about the girls doing that, but then Anne and you and any others also meeting. And at the figurative wall, which is what we are doing here. Anything else you'd like to add, Frank? Any thoughts or reflections? Or
I guess it's sort of unusual for two people to meet for 1 year in college and then form a friendship later on that was so strong and helpful to both of them as they went along through life. But here was a sort of a chance meeting at a railroad station that developed into a nice year in college, and then how much that friendship meant. Of all the girls that Shiny met, I can't think of any that had a bigger effect on Shiny than Fleur. I'm so glad that I had this opportunity to revisit that, and one of these days I'd love to read the letters and maybe write up something for the family.
I'll get them to you. I just can't bear to part with them.
I'll send the transcriptions.
We will get those to you.
And as I said, we've been listening to some of them read by Betsy, and you'll hear them in this episode when it comes out. And it is just a beautiful way of writing. And as we said, very, very open and a lot of humor and all sorts of things mixed together.
That's good. Well, I look forward to that. That'd be fun.
We'll just do a little toast and cheers to Fleur and Shiny, the laughing partners, as they describe themselves. All right.
Yeah, I'd like to be a fly on the wall and all that, and you're bringing that to the fore. So I thank you for that.
Please give our best to Dean, and I do hope our paths meet soon. I'd love to see you again. All right.
Good luck to all three of you. You've done a good job, and keep on keeping on.
All right.
We will.
Well.
Thanks, Frank. You as well.
Thanks, Frank.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You bet.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.
What a sweet man. I just love the tenor of his voice. It's nice.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you hear that rattling?
Yeah.
That's Anne headed toward the dessert.
Headed toward the dessert. You just can't wait, can you? Again, I'm sorry. We always called them cookies, but, it's still a baked item.
We're all good, Doug. We're all good.
Thank you, because we had the oven on long enough yesterday. And speaking of the heat and the letter you're reading from Shiny, it's been hot here right now as we're recording, and didn't want to have the oven on any longer than necessary.
No.
Well, thank you again. I'm loving the letters. I love the sketch and how that tied into leading us to the letters, and it's a beautiful experience.
And how wonderful for us to reconnect with Frank.
Definitely.
It was awesome.
Yes.
So, I guess it's time.
It's time.
For dessert.
For dessert, all right.
All right.
Yay.
See y'all next time.
Okie doke.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Meet Me at the Wall is hosted by Doug Martinet, Anne Goodwin, and Betsy Schmeeken. Music is written and performed by Alex Vance. This podcast is copyright by Pleasurable Pause Press. Thank you for listening, and we hope you tune in again next time.